Welcome to the SVG-TV News for Thursday, March 17th. I'm Khalil Keita with the details. The team of attorneys representing the SVG Teachers Union, the Public Service Union, and the Police Welfare Association is hoping that there will be no delays for the start of the case brought against the government challenging the dismissal of unvaccinated public sector workers. Last Thursday, Justice Esco Henry delivered a verdict stating that the unions did not have the grounds to contest the government's vaccine mandate. She did, however, allow for judicial review as it relates to the way in which the public servants were dismissed. Speaking at a news conference today, one of the 5 attorneys representing the unions, Shirla Zita Barnwell, said the trial should start as early as May.
There aren't any things happening globally that will prohibit this case from progressing expeditiously. I think since we've had the first hearing, Justice Henry has expressed and trying to work within the rules to say that she's going to try to ensure that this matter is heard expeditiously, which is the manner in which these type of matters need to progress through the court. Now, we are in March. The court has already signaled that the first hearing will be sometime in May, April. Let's hope we can have it by April, and I don't think it will be past maybe by the middle of May, because after that you're looking at the court closing sooner or later, a couple of months later down for the summer break. So I would like to think and hope that we can work, and the parties on each side can work together to have this matter settled by, if not before the summer break, then at least when the court reopens in September.
President of the SVG Teachers Union, Oswald Robinson, said they are in high spirits as they prepare for the trial.
So the morale is high. It's only a minority of persons, and you have to give way to that. Some people just believe in just being pessimistic. Some people, because they are politically affiliated, they would feel, well, oh, the government won. The union's name has struck off, so the union's hands are tied. No, that's not so. We are going forward with even more vigor and more courage. The fact that we have the judicial review, the permission for that, that has given us more courage, to move forward.
Responding to questions about the future of the teachers union if there is no victory in the case, Robinson said, win or lose, the union will remain steadfast.
Think that the government or any other employer would come to battle with us, we would fight tooth and nail to the end. Governments go, governments come, the union still stands. It has nothing to do with who is the leadership. We have to stay together, bind ourselves together, uphold our motto, hand in hand, united we stand as we move forward. My sister, that's why we are saying we must be optimistic, we must have hope. Even if we lost the battle, and the word loss is not in my vocabulary with this case at this time, but because you have mentioned it, even if that happens, the union will get stronger.
Public servants who refused to comply with the government's vaccination mandate and were released from service are living under difficult financial times. Challenges in buying food, making mortgage payments, and supporting their children are some of the complaints the head of the SVG Teachers Union, that should be the complaints the SVG Teachers Union, the Police Welfare Association, and the Public Service Union have been receiving from their members. Industrial Relations and Research Officer for the SVG Teachers Union, Andrew John, said dismissed public servants are struggling to make ends meet.
They would have lost that income. Well, the income is important to you no matter how small it is. So all those persons who were dismissed would have lost their income. It means that whatever commitments they had in relation to their mortgages, in relation to their children, we have come across persons who have children even at university, some at secondary school, and it has very significant implications for these students who are at secondary school, who are at university. Some of those persons are fully supported or were fully supported by their parents who were dismissed. It also comes down to a matter of food, just being able to eat. We are in a situation now where we are seeing cost of living rising. We don't have a number, but if we look at it, the cost of living might be the highest that we have ever seen for a very, very long time. And we have dismissed people among, in the midst of a situation where people are finding it very, very difficult to cope with the high cost of living. So even as simple as buying food, it has become a major issue for our teachers who are dismissed.
John also said the dismissed workers, are experiencing mental health challenges. He said the situation is also affecting the students, who have expressed concern about the quality of education they are now receiving since the dismissal of their teachers. He called on the government to act in the best interest of the students.
Should make arrangement with the external examination to give some relief to the children who have lost their teachers. There's a student, there was a student who I spoke with recently, and she was telling me, I think she was in Form 5, and it seemed as though she has given up hope of doing the SBAs that they are supposed to be doing. They're frustrated. The children are frustrated, they don't know what to do. So how are they going to successfully complete these SBAs without the proper guidance that the teachers who were qualified to do so would have been given them? So it's like they have created basically a crisis in society.
Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves continues to defend his position against a Citizen by Investment Program, CIP, saying it will not be implemented in SVG. Speaking on NBC Radio on Wednesday, PM Gonsalves said he believes such a program is an invitation to criminals to enter the island.
And I always say, both in principle and practice, this thing is a mistake. In principle, we mustn't sell our instruments of nationhood. Citizenship is the highest office in the land. Higher than Prime Minister, higher than Governor General is not a commodity for sale. And in any case, it is bringing a lot of vagabonds and criminals and people who want to use their money to escape the extent of scrutiny.
Speaking on a recent move by the European Union Parliament to ban golden passports and halting the issuing of visas to rich Russians in exchange for investments by 2025, PM Gonsalves says this is a sign that the program is not sustainable. He said the fact that other OECS countries have implemented a similar program will not persuade his government to do the same.
I study this situation. They tell me, look at so-and-so doing it. I say, go ahead. Money come easy. The money go easy. We setting out a sustainable path.
Minister with responsibility for consumer affairs, Frederick Stevenson, has assured Vincentians that the government is mindful of their concerns as consumers and is committed to the advancement of consumers' interest through legislative changes. The assurance comes as St. Vincent and the Grenadines joined the rest of the international community on Tuesday in observing World Consumers' Rights Day.
Already, the government has passed several pieces of legislation in the interest and welfare of consumers, which include the Cybercrime Act, the Electronic Filing Act, the Electronic Transaction Act, the Electronic Funds Transfer Act, and most recently, but extremely important, the Consumer Protection Act of 2020. These important pieces of legislation are all intended to, among other things, set a path to ensure fair digital financing.
Minister Stevenson said his ministry will continue to work towards the proclamation of the Consumer Protection Act.
The Consumer Protection Act number 12 of 20, which was passed in the House of Parliament in December 2020, is a broad and encompassing piece of legislation which sets out a framework that consolidates in one place key consumer protection rights exercisable in relation to the supply of goods and services. It establishes the duties and obligations of suppliers, the administrative and legal frameworks for the identification of violations involving the supply of goods and services, the physical and financial security of consumers, unfair trade practices and transactions, and unfair contract terms. Where violations have been identified, The Act also makes provision for both consumers and suppliers to be heard, for consumer redress and for supplier defense, where appropriate.
World Consumers' Rights Day 2022 was observed under the theme Fair Digital Finance. It was dedicated to highlighting the power of consumers and their rights to a fair, safe, and sustainable marketplace for everyone. Taiwan's Gender Equality Week 2022 recently concluded, highlighting gender equality and Taiwan's women-led action to tackle climate change, focusing on government's commitment to working with like-minded partners around the world. Co-organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Taipei City-based Foundation of Women's Rights Promotion and Development, the event leads up to the 66th session of the UN Commission on the Status of Women from March 14th to 25th. Taiwan's ambassador to SVG, His Excellency Peter Shalilan, said the Gender Equality Week was initiated by their president, Tsai Ing-wen. On an API program, Ambassador Lan said although there is still a slight gap, women are almost on the same salary scale as men in Taiwan.
According to the latest statistics, of course, there's still some minor gap in terms of the salary, but women are catching up very, very soon because we have reformed our relative legal frameworks to protect women, not only salary-wise, but also against the bias, violence, and discrimination in the past few years. So that's why we improve a lot in terms of the ranking of inequality in Asia and worldwide.
Ambassador Lan, who took up the post as head of the Taiwanese embassy in SVG in August 2021, said that in an effort to foster gender equality and to uplift the women of SVG, the embassy has several things in store this year for women.
Exactly why we are launching the Women Empowerment Project here. And as a matter of fact, on March 8th, here in Kingstown, we just had this award granting ceremony. We selected 3 female enterprises and awarded them with the winner of the competition. And this is only the run from the year 2021. We are going to have another 2 runs this year. So we want to encourage women enterprise out there to actively participate in this program. And by the way, this is not the only program we have under this Women Empowerment Program. We do have other programs, for example, vocational training courses, which very welcomed. Last year, we had programs in beauty and body care, and also the food and beverage. And this year, we already have over than 140 enterprise or individuals registers for our courses in April, and we will continue.
The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, on the advice of scientists from the Seismic Research Center at the University of the West Indies, has taken the decision to lower the volcanic alert level from yellow to green, effective Tuesday, March 16th. The green alert means that the fumarolic steam vent activity at the Superior Volcano is at or below the historical level. No other unusual activity has been observed. A news release from NEMO said activity at the Superior Volcano is now considered to be at levels similar to background activity recorded prior to the 2020-2021 eruption. NEMO said the overall trend of decreasing seismicity continued during the last month and that no change in gas composition has been observed since measurements were last taken in late January. This, it said, indicates that the plume chemistry has returned to its pre-eruption chemistry. There has been no significant change in deformation signal since May 2021. The alert level for the volcano was previously lowered from orange to yellow on September 15, 2021, and since then activities have lowered considerably or ceased. The La Soufrière Trail remains closed due to the uneven and dangerous terrain. NEMO is reminding the public of the potential threat for lahars, floodwaters mixed with ash, other volcanic materials, mud, debris, and rocks after rainfall, and the threat of persons living and moving across the river valleys closer to the volcano. Residents and motorists in areas close to the volcano and persons traversing rivers and streams during the period of heavy rainfall are advised to always remain vigilant. Vincentians of all ages will be given the opportunity to share their stories of the 2021 explosive eruption of La Soufrière through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Literary Arts Competition. The competition is being held under the theme Charting Resilience, Recording Recovery, and is open to entrants from 9 years old and up. The categories of competition are short story, essay, narrative, poetry, and pictorial narrative. Senior Foreign Affairs Service Officer in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Tamira Brown, said the ministry has expanded the categories to capture a variety of stories about the eruption.
No doubt that our children are very resilient. We have seen it in our ministry directly and firsthand, and I am sure this year they would definitely take the opportunity to participate in this literary arts competition because the scope is wider. They do not only write essays for this special edition, but they also have the short story category, the poetry category, and the pictorial narrative category, and their stories therefore would be even more rich in how they present it.
Brown made a call to those persons who are still in the process of recovery to enter the competition.
We know that the work continues and the recovery is not a static process but a dynamic process, and we still have persons who are in shelters as we speak, and their stories must not be missed either, but we must encourage their participation because it's really not limited by age. Participation is not limited by age, and we want them to share their stories even now, if they're still in a shelter, if they're back home, if they're in the community, what kind of work they're doing, how they're doing that work. That is important in this competition.
And the Caribbean Health and Wellness Institute, a Vincentian-based organization, today collaborated with Creative Arts Therapy in Trinidad and Tobago to host a workshop geared towards exploring the ways in which art and creativity can be used for building emotional resilience. Collaborator for the event, Andrea Games-Moes, gave a brief outline of what the workshop is about.
Having a virtual workshop which focuses on creative therapy. We would be having 3 creative therapists from Trinidad and Tobago. That's Miss Christy Anatol, she's an art therapist. Miss Kezia Barkley, she's a dance movement therapist. And Miss Martina Cho is a music therapist. So what we're aiming to do is to help persons build emotional resiliency through the art. And we would have been exposed to some of it earlier in the year when the volcanic eruption happened and there was the Return to Happiness program. But it's really the first time that we're seeing all 3 creative therapies and the different expressive therapies being introduced into Vincent and the Grenadines. So Caribbean Health and Wellness Institute, through myself, through the collaboration with these wonderful young ladies, we will be having a virtual workshop, and it's really an introduction to something bigger that would be developing in the future as well, to really introduce different type of therapeutic modalities or different type of therapeutic activities to the Vincentian public.
Moa said it is her hope that after the workshop, persons can come to the realization that emotional intelligence is in everything we do.
Hoping to see that persons are able to engage in a process that is not only a facility or a space for them to learn, but a space to really tap into their creative side. We're hoping that persons get an understanding and a feel of what art therapy is like, what dance and movement therapy is like, what music therapy is like, but also it's helping persons to recognize that emotional resiliency is in everything that we do. So not only through counseling, but through our bodies, or how we use our bodies, how we communicate through art. And culture is something that's very big in our Vincentian community, in our traditions. So it's really looking at how we can use those creative and performing arts, cultural activities that we do in a therapeutic way and in a scientific way as well, not just in a space of expression, but a space for guidance and how we create resiliency and promote mental health.
The Australia government has funded rehabilitation of the Voice of the Disabled Learning Centre to improve the centre's readiness for persons living with various disabilities. Last week, the Australian High Commissioner to SVG visited the organization's learning centre in Sanssouci and expressed satisfaction with the progress made, which would help to improve the lives of persons with disabilities. We hear more in this report.
The Voice of the Disabled organization is now in a better position to empower its members as its building in Sanssouci has been renovated to the tune of 62,000 EC dollars with assistance from the Australian aid. A small ceremony was held at the Learning Centre last week as the Voice of the Disabled hosted the Australian High Commissioner to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Bruce Lendon. After touring the building, the High Commissioner said he is pleased with the project.
I'm very impressed with the work that's been done by the Voice of the Disabled here. I'm very pleased that we've been able to support this organisation because it shows what can be done with determination and commitment. They've really brought it along very well, and I hope that they can continue the work that they're doing, and that this building will be an important moving house for them and an important centre for the organisation which can help them build further.
President of the Voice of the Disabled, Cheryl Adams, expressed gratitude for the help received.
I am very, very, very pleased, and I can only say to God be the glory, great things He has done, and to the Australian government and people for helping us for reaching this far. So this would be the home or the center for persons with disability.
The renovation of the Voice of the Disabled building started in May last year and was recently completed. Project coordinator of the Voice of the Disabled, Alan Williams, said persons with disabilities can now participate in different programs which will be held at the centre.
We're able to tie the building and we're able to even get literacy materials like braille machine and stuff so that persons can learn how to read and write and stuff like that.
There are more than 50 members of the Voice of the Disabled who will benefit from the various programs. For SVG-TV News, Larissa Pogsley-Kidd.
Police have arrested and charged Raekwon Robinson, a 32-year-old laborer of Camden Park, with the offense of wounding. He allegedly, unlawfully and maliciously wounded a 49-year-old accountant of Vermont by stabbing him in his head and right eye with a broken bottle. The incident occurred about 1:30 a.m. on Monday, March 14th in Enhams. Robinson is expected to appear before the magistrate's court to answer to the charge. Meanwhile, Jeffrey Cuffey, a 33-year-old mason of Kittel's, was arrested and charged with the offense of robbery. The accused, allegedly being armed with a knife, robbed a 46-year-old domestic worker of Layou of one black cellular phone, brand unknown, valued at 250 EC dollars. This incident occurred in Camden Park at about 7:05 p.m. on Monday as well. Cuffey is also expected to appear before the magistrate's court to answer to the charge.